The suitcase burst open before I even made it out of the airport. Malik's sweater spilled across the polished floor, the one he wore every Sunday morning while making pancakes. His shoes, his journal, the tie he saved for our anniversaries, pieces of him scattered in front of strangers who stepped around me without slowing down. I dropped to my knees, tears blurring my vision, clawing at memories I couldn't hold on to. 30 hours earlier, I had stood at his grave on the other side of the world, pressing my palm against cold stone, promising him I'd carry him home. Now, all I had left of him was lying in a heap at my feet. And as I scrambled to gather Malik's life into a broken suitcase, my phone buzzed again. Not a "we're here." Not a "we got you." Instead, another message from my own family. "We busy. Grab a rideshare." They knew I had just buried my husband alone. They knew I hadn't slept in days. Still, nobody came. That was the moment I realized, sometimes, the people who should love you most will abandon you without hesitation, and that abandonment can cut deeper than death itself. Long before grief made my chest ache with every breath, I thought I was living inside a fairy tale. Malik wasn't just my husband, he was the rhythm to my heartbeat. We met sophomore year at Clark Atlanta, when he clumsily spilled coffee all over my economics book. He insisted on replacing it, but instead of handing me a new one, he showed up with 2 plates of catfish and collard greens from the cafeteria. His smile was nervous, his laugh contagious. That accident became our beginning. We built everything from scratch. A 2-story brick home on the east side. Backyard cookouts with too loud music. Vacations we couldn't really afford but took anyway, because Malik believed memories mattered more than savings accounts. Even in the little things, Thursday night game nights, inside jokes, burnt cornbread disasters, life felt golden. We talked about starting a family soon. The spare bedroom was already painted a soft green, waiting for the day we'd turn it into a nursery. Malik used to say, "We just getting started, baby. Watch what God gon' do for us." He was right, something was coming. But it wasn't blessings. It was a storm so violent it would tear our world apart in a single breath. It started as a headache. That's what Malik told me during our morning video call. His face was pale, his voice softer than usual. He rubbed his temples, laughing it off. "Probably just stress, baby. Deadlines got me grinding." 8 hours later, his coworker's trembling voice came through Malik's phone. He collapsed, they're rushing him to the hospital. My world cracked open. I booked the first flight to Seoul, clutching my passport like it was oxygen. 26 hours of travel felt like a lifetime. I replayed his last words to me over and over until the sound of his laugh was the only thing keeping me breathing. But when I finally stumbled into that hospital, Malik was already gone in every way that mattered. Machines hummed beside him. His chest rose and fell, but the doctors explained a ruptured aneurysm. Emergency surgery had failed. His brain was catastrophically damaged. I stayed 5 days. 5 days of holding his hand, begging God for a miracle, whispering stories into ears that never twitched. On the 6th, Malik slipped away, leaving me in a foreign country, a widow at 34, and more alone than I ever thought possible. The hardest part wasn't watching Malik's chest fall still. It was what came after. Every paper I had to sign was in a language I didn't understand. Every conversation filtered through translation apps or rushed interpreters. My mind was too fogged with grief to process, yet I had no choice. Someone had to fight for Malik's dignity, and that someone was me. Alone. I called home every night, desperate for comfort. What I got instead were quick goodbyes. "We praying for you, baby. Don't forget the insurance forms." Then silence. I begged them to come. Flights were too expensive. Work was too demanding. Not one of them got on a plane. So when the hospital handed me death certificates and bills I didn't understand, I signed anyway. When I realized bringing Malik home was impossible, I agreed to bury him in foreign soil. The funeral was small, a few coworkers, an expat or two, and me. No family. No childhood friends. Just me, clutching a folded program like it could hold me upright. When the dirt covered Malik's casket, something inside me cracked. I wasn't just grieving my husband. I was grieving the family I thought I had. 30 hours. That's how long it took me to drag my broken body and Malik's belongings back across the ocean. The trip was a blur of missed connections, mechanical delays, and nights spent curled in stiff airport chairs. Each announcement over the loudspeaker made me flinch, each crowd pressing past me felt like a storm I didn't have the strength to withstand. I barely ate. Coffee and grief were the only things keeping me upright. My suitcases felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds, not because of clothes, but because inside them lived fragments of our life. Malik's favorite hoodie. The leather journal I bought him one Christmas. The coffee mug he used every morning. Every item was both anchor and knife. Somewhere between Tokyo and Seattle, my mind drifted back to childhood. The patterns I used to excuse began to resurface. The time I broke my arm and Mama left me in the ER so she wouldn't miss Darius's soccer game. The scholarships I won that were overshadowed by his trophies. Even on my wedding day, my parents fussed more over who Darius brought as his date than the vows I spoke. And yet, somehow, I still believed they'd be waiting for me at the airport. The wheels touched down and the cabin erupted with life. Passengers cheered, stretched, grabbed bags from overhead bins. Me? I sat frozen in my seat, whispering prayers that someone, anyone, would be waiting at the gate. I checked my phone. One last text to the family group chat landed. Can someone pick me up? Minutes ticked by. Then the replies came. Darius, we tied up. Just grab a rideshare. Mama, baby, you should have planned better. Daddy, supposed to rain later. Drive safe when you get home. That was it. Not a hug waiting at baggage claim. Not a single face holding a sign with my name. Just strangers rushing past while I dragged Malik's belongings off the carousel, 3 heavy suitcases stuffed with the last pieces of our life together. I typed back, no worries, I understand. My chest burned with the lie. Pushing the cart toward the exit, one of the wheels jammed. The top suitcase toppled, bursting open. Malik's clothes spilled across the shiny airport floor, his sweater, his shoes, his tie. As I scrambled on my knees, gathering what was left of my husband, I realized the truth. My family had left me more alone than death ever could. I was still on my knees, fumbling Malik's things into the busted suitcase, when a gentle voice cut through the chaos. Let me help you, ma'am. I looked up. An airport worker knelt beside me, her badge reading Gloria. Her hands moved carefully, folding Malik's sweater like it mattered, tucking his journal back into place. You all right? She asked. Those 3 words pierced me deeper than anything my family had said in months. Nobody had asked if I was all right. They asked about insurance, money, schedules, but never about me. Tears broke loose. My voice cracked. My husband died. I just buried him overseas. Gloria didn't flinch. She didn't rush me. She just kept packing in silence, her eyes soft with something I hadn't felt in weeks, compassion. When the suitcase was finally zipped, she stood and walked me to the rideshare area herself. Somebody coming for you? She asked. I shook my head. No. My family's busy. Her frown said everything. She stayed with me until the car pulled up, helped load my bags, then squeezed my hand before I left. Take care of yourself, sweetheart, she whispered. It was more comfort than my own family had offered. The rideshare driver dropped me at the curb. My house looked exactly the same, yet everything about it felt wrong. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. When I opened the door, the air was stale and freezing. I'd asked Mama to adjust the thermostat before I came home. She'd promised. She'd forgotten. Mail spilled out of the basket by the door. Bills, flyers, unopened envelopes, a month of neglect. The refrigerator held nothing but expired condiments. Darius had sworn he'd stock it for me. He hadn't. Upstairs, Malik's closet door stood ajar. His shoes lined up exactly as he'd left them. His favorite flannel still hung on the hook by the bed. They hadn't touched a thing, even though they promised to make it easier. That night, I curled in the armchair by the window, coat still on, because the house was so cold. Surrounded by photos of our laughter, I finally broke down. I had survived airports, death certificates, even Malik's funeral alone. But standing in that silent house, abandoned twice, once by Malik, once by my family, I realized grief wasn't the only thing trying to kill me. Something else was coming. And it would be worse. The storm outside howled while I searched for something to eat. All I found were stale crackers. I chewed in silence, the kitchen floor icy beneath my soaked socks. Then I heard it, dripping from the ceiling, water staining the walls. A pipe had burst. My house was drowning. I grabbed my phone, called Darius. His answer was sharp, "That's tough, sis. Can't talk, I got clients coming." Mama's excuse followed, "Bridge club tomorrow, baby. Your father's back too bad for guests. Just book a hotel." The words were familiar, dismissal dressed as advice. My chest tightened. First Malik was gone, now my family was gone too, at least in every way that mattered. Water pooled around my feet as I whispered into the empty house, "I have no one." But I was wrong. Because the storm hadn't finished with me yet. And before the night was over, it would force the truth into the open, truth my family couldn't hide from the world anymore. Everything went blank. When I woke again, it wasn't in my house. It was in a hospital bed, lights glaring overhead. A nurse told me a neighbor had called 911. Firefighters pulled me out just in time. But by then, my story wasn't just mine anymore. A local reporter overheard the paramedics. A widow abandoned by family, nearly dead from a burst pipe in a poisoned home, it was too powerful a headline to ignore. By evening, the broadcast hit every living room in the city. Local woman returns from husband's overseas funeral, nearly dies alone. Family text messages reveal cold dismissal. Screenshots of my group chat were everywhere. Darius telling me to get a rideshare. Mama saying I should have planned better. My father reminding me to drive safe. Strangers wept for me. Hashtags trended. Offers of help poured in. And my family? They rushed to my hospital bed. Not to hold me. Not to apologize. But to save face. Darius barged in first, pale with panic. "They making it look like we abandoned you." Mama's voice snapped after him, "This whole story is twisted. You know we love you, Naomi." But I lay silent, too tired to argue, watching them scramble. In the hallway, I overheard their whispers, Mama worrying about her reputation, Darius about his clients, Daddy sighing about getting ahead of the story. Not one of them said, "We failed you." Later, when the doctor asked who could care for me, Mama pounced, "Of course, she'll stay with us. Family sticks together." The nurse looked at me. "Naomi, are you comfortable with that? You have other options." The room froze. For the first time in my life, I realized I could choose. And I wasn't choosing them. After they left, strangers filled the gap. The hotel offered me a warm room. A meal service donated food. Neighbors volunteered to check in. Diane, the one who called 911, brought soup every week. For the first time, I felt something I hadn't felt even before Malik died, community. It wasn't blood that saved me. It was kindness. And it taught me a truth I should have learned long ago. Sometimes, the family you need isn't the family you're born into. 6 months later, I launched the Malik Price Memorial Scholarship, designed for students studying abroad who might face emergencies. I built the safety net we never had, so no one else would be left alone like I was. On our anniversary, I announced the first recipient in my rebuilt home. Friends gathered, neighbors cheered. Family sent excuses. But as I handed that scholarship to a wide-eyed student, I felt Malik there, not in body, but in spirit. His love had outlived him. His story had transformed pain into purpose. And for the first time since Seoul, I smiled without forcing it. Looking back, I see it clearly. Betrayal cut deep. Abandonment nearly killed me. But grief carved out space for something stronger. I learned love isn't measured by last names. Family isn't who shares your blood, it's who shows up when the world falls apart. Revenge wasn't screaming at my parents or exposing my brother. Revenge was healing without them. Building joy they couldn't take credit for. Living the life Malik and I dreamed of on my own terms. So if you've ever been abandoned when you needed someone most, hear me, your worth isn't tied to the ones who couldn't love you. Sometimes, the greatest family you'll ever have will be the one you create yourself. That's how I survived. That's how I keep going. And that's why I'll never again wait for water from an empty well.